I checked the account my mom left me after she died. She saved 147,300 pounds over 30 years. The balance said 15,500 pounds. My uncle had been draining it for 18 months to fund his caravan park and his wife's online shopping. I stared at the bank screen for a full 3 minutes before the number even registered. 15,500 pounds. That was it. That was what was left of my mom's entire life savings. The money she'd scraped together over 31 years sorting post at the Royal Mail Depot in Bedminster. 31 years of early shifts and overtime and weekends she could have spent with me. She'd told me in the hospice, holding my hand with fingers that had gone thin as bird bones. There's enough in there for a proper start, love. A deposit, maybe a wedding. Don't let anyone tell you it's not yours. She died 11 days later, and my Uncle Greg helped himself to almost all of it. My name is Nora. I'm 31. I work as a veterinary technician at a small animal practice in Clifton, and this is the story of how the only family I had left decided my mother's life was worth less than a caravan park and a shopping habit. I grew up in Southville, just me and my mom, Patricia. No dad in the picture. Mom never complained about it. She just worked. She was a postal clerk, had been since she was 22. She'd get up at 4:30 every morning, catch the number 24 bus to the depot, sort parcels until her shoulders ached, then come home and cook us something proper. Not ready meals, actual food. Shepherd's pie, toad in the hole, Sunday roasts on a Wednesday, because she said Wednesday deserved something nice too. She built that savings account the way she built everything. Slowly, quietly, without anyone noticing. 147,300 pounds. I didn't know the exact number until after she was gone. She never talked about it. She just kept putting money away, like she was stacking bricks for a wall I couldn't see yet. Mom was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in January 2019. By the time they found it, there was nothing to do but manage the pain and count the weeks. She was 59. She updated her will from the hospice bed. I was her sole beneficiary. The savings account, everything in it, all mine. But Mom had this thing, a superstition really. She believed you shouldn't trust anyone with real money before 30. Your brain's not finished cooking till then, love, she used to say. So she named her older brother, Greg, as temporary executor. He'd manage the paperwork, keep the account safe, and hand it all over when I turned 30. Uncle Greg was 58. He ran a 12-pitch caravan park called Seaview Haven, just outside Weston-super-Mare. The place had been struggling for years. He'd remortgaged twice and owed suppliers over 40,000 pounds. His wife, Denise, spent money the way other people breathe. Clothes, home decor, subscription boxes, things arriving in parcels 3 or 4 times a week. Greg and I were never close. He was cordial, friendly enough at Christmas. When I was 12 and 13, he'd drive me to Saturday football practice at Ashton Gate Youth Club when Mum was working weekends. Twice a week for about 2 years. That was the extent of it. Mum passed on the 9th of March, 2019. At the funeral, Greg put his arm around me and said, "Don't worry about the boring bits, love. I'll keep it all ticking over." I nodded. I couldn't speak. I was 28 years old, and I had no one left. For the next 18 months, I did what grief tells you to do. I went to work, I came home, I fed my cat, I cried in the shower, and slept on her side of the sofa because it still smelled like her perfume. I trusted Greg completely. He was my mom's brother, the only family I had left. When I asked about the account, he always had smooth answers. Solicitor fees, love, or tax stuff. HMRC takes their cut, or I moved some into a better interest rate ISA. Don't worry about it. I never pressed further. I didn't have the energy. But things started to look different if you were paying attention, and I wasn't. Not then. Denise turned up to a family barbecue in a coat I later found out cost 1,400 pounds. Greg bought a brand new Land Rover Defender. The caravan park got a full refurbishment. New static caravans, new reception building, freshly tarmacked road, all while Greg kept telling anyone who'd listen that business was barely breaking even. I turned 30 on the 16th of September 2021. Greg had transferred the account into my name 2 weeks earlier. No ceremony, just a text saying, "All yours now, kiddo." That morning I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea and logged in, expecting to see the future my mom had built for me. And instead, I saw a number that made my hands go numb. 15,500 pounds. I checked it 4 times. I refreshed the page. I logged out and logged back in. The number didn't change. Then I opened the transaction history, and my whole body went cold. Transfers. Dozens of them. 5,000 here, 8,000 there, 12,000 in a single hit. Some were labeled Seaview Haven Ltd. Others went to retailers I didn't recognize, payment platforms, a personal loan company. 18 months of my mom's money pouring out of that account like water through a cracked pipe, and every drop landing in someone else's hands. I called Greg. No answer. Called again. Voicemail. His voice cheerful and unhurried, telling me to leave a message after the tone. I didn't leave a message. I grabbed my keys and drove to his house in Worrell, 20 minutes outside Weston, and my hands were shaking so badly I nearly stalled twice on the A370. He answered the door in a dressing gown, cup of tea in one hand, looking entirely unbothered, like it was any other Tuesday. Behind him in the hallway, I could see Denise surrounded by shopping bags, John Lewis, next, a stack of boxes from some subscription service I didn't recognize. "Greg, where's the money?" I said. "There's supposed to be over 140,000 in that account. There's 15. Calm down, Nora. Sit down. You're being dramatic." "Dramatic? There are transfers to your caravan park. Thousands of pounds, Greg. Dozens of them." He sighed. Actually sighed. Like I was a child throwing a tantrum over a broken toy. "Your mom would have wanted me to have it," he said. "She always said family looks after family. She left it to me, in her will. You were just supposed to manage it. And I did manage it. I managed it into keeping this family afloat. You think those lifts to football came free? 2 times a week? 50 weeks a year? For 2 years? Petrol. Time. Wear on the car. That's worth more than money, love." I stared at him. This man, standing in his dressing gown at 11:30 on a Tuesday morning, telling me that driving a 12-year-old to Ashton Gate Youth Club entitled him to 131,800 pounds of my dead mother's savings. "You're telling me driving me to football when I was 12 entitles you to everything my mom spent 30 years saving?" He shrugged. Actually shrugged. "I took you in when no one else would. Your mom knew what she was doing putting me in charge. She trusted my judgment. He hadn't taken me in. I'd never lived with him. He'd given me lifts on Saturdays for 2 years. That was it. But he'd rewritten the whole story in his head and made himself the hero of it." I left without another word. I sat in my car in his driveway and I cried for 20 minutes. Not just from the betrayal, from the picture of my mom sitting in that hospice bed, believing the money was safe, believing her brother would do the one thing she'd asked him to do. 31 years of early mornings and aching shoulders and Wednesday roasts and every single penny tucked away, gone, spent on static caravans and designer coats and a Land Rover he drove to the pub. Then something shifted. The grief didn't disappear, but it hardened. It went from something soft and broken into something cold and sharp. I wiped my face, pulled out my phone, scrolled to Priya's name, and pressed call. Priya Sharma, 32, chartered accountant at a firm in Bristol City Center. We'd been best friends since sixth form at Ashton Park. She picked up on the second ring. I told her everything. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a pause. Then she said, "Don't text him. Don't email him. Don't give him anything in writing that he can twist. Come to mine tonight. Bring every document you have. We're pulling every single bank statement." That night I sat at Priya's kitchen table in her flat in Redland with 18 months of transactions spread across 2 laptops and printed statements covering every inch of the surface. There was a bottle of wine on the counter. Neither of us touched it. Priya worked through the numbers line by line, categorizing, cross-referencing, building a spreadsheet that laid out exactly where every pound had gone and when. Then she stopped. She turned her laptop toward me and pointed at the screen. A personal loan, £22,000, taken out in my mother's name through an online lender 3 months before she died. December 2018. The application listed my mom's address, her date of birth, her national insurance number, and at the bottom, a scanned signature. I knew my mom's handwriting the way I knew her voice. I'd seen it on birthday cards and shopping lists, and the note she'd left on the fridge the morning of her last hospital admission. That signature wasn't hers. Priya looked at me. "Nora," she said quietly, "that's forgery. This isn't just a family dispute anymore." Priya worked for 3 straight weeks. Every evening after her own job, she'd come to my flat, or I'd go to hers, and we'd sit with the laptops and the statements and the spreadsheet that grew longer every night. By the end, she'd traced 47 separate transfers from my mom's account, totaling £131,800. 47 over 18 months. The largest single transfer was £18,500 to Seaview Haven Limited in August 2019, 5 months after my mom was in the ground. Roughly $34,000 went to online retailers, subscription services, and payments that matched Denise's personal credit card due dates almost to the day. Greg had changed the correspondence address on the account to his own house in Worrell. Every statement, every notification, every letter diverted straight to his doormat and away from mine. He'd planned it. This wasn't careless. This was systematic. And then there was the loan. £22,000 from a high street lender, taken out in December 2018 in my mom's name. December 2018. My mom had been in the hospice since November. She couldn't walk to the bathroom without help. She certainly wasn't filling out loan applications. Priya put the signature from the loan next to the signature on my mom's will. They weren't even close. Different slant, different pressure, different letter shapes. Someone had sat down and tried to copy my mom's handwriting while she was dying in a bed 6 miles away. Greg found out I'd been pulling statements. I don't know how. Maybe the bank flagged it. Maybe Denise heard something. He called me on a Wednesday evening, and his voice was nothing like the man in the dressing gown. "You're going to tear this family apart over money," he said. "Your mom would be ashamed of you." Then, quieter and harder, "If you take this further, I'll tell everyone you are an ungrateful kid who never visited her own mother in hospital." I visited every single day. I held her hand while she slept. I read to her from the Catherine Cookson novels she loved, even though I hated them. I was there when she died. He wasn't. Denise sent me a WhatsApp message that night, long and rambling and full of exclamation marks. She said Greg deserved compensation for being the only man in your life. She said my mom had verbally promised Greg the money. She said I was young and I'd earn it back. She said they needed it more. Greg called his nephew Martin and told him I was harassing an old man over a misunderstanding. Martin phoned me, told me I was out of order. I asked him if he knew about the forged loan. He went quiet. I hung up. I might have stopped there. Grief does that to you. It makes you tired in a way that sleep can't fix. And when everyone around you is telling you you're wrong, it gets harder to remember that you're not. But then James overheard me. James Mowbray, 35, worked beside me at the veterinary practice in Clifton. Quiet, observant. He'd spent 3 years as a paralegal at a Bristol law firm before retraining as a veterinary nurse. He found me on a break in the staff room talking to Priya on the phone, and he waited until I hung up. Then he said, "Nora, forging a signature on a loan application is fraud. Draining an estate account as executor is a criminal offense under the Fraud Act. This isn't just a family row. You need a solicitor. Today." He gave me a name, Eleanor Hale, specialist, estate litigation firm in Bristol. James didn't just make the introduction. He helped me organize every document chronologically, built a timeline on a single sheet of A3 paper, dates down the left side, amounts down the right. Greg's known expenses matched to every withdrawal. He came with me to my first police interview at Trinity Road Station for moral support and sat in the corridor for 2 hours reading a paperback while I gave my statement. Eleanor reviewed Priya's spreadsheet and the forged loan documents in a single meeting. She looked up from the papers and said, "This is one of the clearest cases of executor fraud I've seen in 9 years. We're filing both criminal and civil." We reported to Avon and Somerset Police that week. Simultaneously, Eleanor filed a civil claim through Bristol County Court. Full restitution of £131,800. Recovery of the $22,000 fraudulent loan. Costs, interest, everything. 2 weeks before the court date, Greg's solicitor contacted Eleanor with a settlement offer. £40,000 to put the matter to rest. Eleanor forwarded it to me with a single line. "Your call, but the forensic auditor just confirmed the forged signature. This goes beyond money now." I told her to reject it. Bristol County Court, November 2021. I sat at a table with Eleanor beside me. Priya and James were in the row behind. I could feel them there without looking. Greg sat across the courtroom, and he looked 10 years older than the man at my mum's funeral. Gray-faced, crumpled suit. The chair next to him was empty. Denise had refused to come. Eleanor presented the forensic audit first. 47 transfers, £131,800 drained over 18 months. Bank records showing Greg had changed the correspondence address on the account to his own home within 2 weeks of my mom's death. The forged loan. A handwriting expert confirmed the signature on the application was not my mother's. The pattern was so deliberate, so methodical, that no reasonable person could call it a mistake. Greg's solicitor tried the only defense he had: implied authority. He claimed Patricia had verbally expressed a wish for Greg to use the funds for family needs. The judge asked for evidence of this verbal agreement: a recording, a letter, a witness, anything. There was nothing. Greg took the stand. His solicitor asked him to explain the transfers. He sat there in that crumpled suit and said, "I was keeping things running for the family. Nora's mum would have understood." Eleanor stood for cross-examination. She was calm, precise. She didn't raise her voice once. "Mr. Hargreaves, can you explain why you took out a £22,000 loan in your deceased sister's name 3 months before she died, while she was in hospice care and physically incapable of signing any document?" Long pause. Greg looked at the table. "She asked me to. She asked you to forge her signature on a loan application while she was receiving end-of-life care? I was trying to help." "Help whom, Mr. Hargreaves?" "The £22,000 was deposited directly into Seaview Haven Ltd's business account." "Your business." He didn't answer. He just sat there. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I didn't feel angry. I felt tired and sad, and sorry that my mum's brother had turned out to be this small. The judge didn't deliberate long. Full restitution ordered. £131,800 plus the $22,000 fraudulent loan, plus legal costs and interest. Total judgment exceeding £168,000. The forged loan was referred to the Crown Prosecution Service for potential criminal charges. Greg couldn't pay from personal funds. Of course he couldn't. Seaview Haven, the caravan park he'd poured my mum's money into, was forced into sale to satisfy the debt. It went at auction for $195,000, barely enough to cover the judgment and his own accumulated debts. He was left with nothing. Denise left him within 3 weeks, took what she could carry. Martin, the cousin who'd called me out of order, sent a text. "Sorry, didn't know the full picture." I read it and didn't reply. Rachel, the other cousin, broke her silence to tell me Greg had tried to borrow money from her, too. She'd said no, but never warned anyone. I wished she had. 4 months after the judgment, Greg called me from a rented bedsit in Bridgewater. He was crying. He said he was sorry, not for taking the money, for how it all turned out. Like it was weather, like it had happened to him rather than because of him. He asked if we could start fresh. I listened. I didn't hang up. You didn't just steal money, Greg, I said. You stole what Mum spent her whole life building. You forged her name while she was dying. I don't know how to come back from that. I told him I hoped he got help. I didn't call him again. I used the recovered funds to put a deposit on a 2-bedroom flat in Bedminster, 10 minutes from the Royal Mail Depot, where my mum worked for 31 years. I endowed a small annual bursary at Ashton Park School in her name. The Patricia Hargreaves Memorial Bursary, awarded each year to a student going into public service. I adopted a rescue greyhound and named her Posty. She sleeps on the sofa. Mum's side. My mum spent 31 years sorting other people's letters so that I'd have something of my own. She never bought herself anything nice. She never went on holiday. She just put a little aside every single month and trusted that family meant something. Greg taught me that trust has to be earned, not inherited. But Mum taught me that love is what you build quietly when nobody's watching. And that's worth more than anything he could have taken.